Hello and welcome to Remote Training with the IGI office. I am Master Sergeant Davenport, and today we're going to talk about telling the whole story, opening up an observation in MCT against an entire checklist. Topics that we're going to discuss today are AFIS, the Air Force Inspection System. We're going to look at MCT observations against a checklist or referencing that AFI for that checklist. And there will be a training video on where to go into MCT to open up that observation against the checklist. And for a quick general guidance, AFIS, the Air Force Inspection System, is that single, coherent, integrated, synchronized system that we use as we're directed by the Secretary of the Air Force and the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. It's used for our inspections. We're looking for a state of discipline, economy, efficiency, readiness, resource management when we're doing our inspections. The 934th Airlift Wing Commander's AFIS intent is commanders promoting that continuous unit self-assessment program. It's an all-encompassing approach. You're looking across your wide range of your unit's functions and identifying those areas of non-compliance. It's not just your MCT, it's not just your iGEMs, but it's your whole self-assessment program and the way you manage it. And you want to empower your airmen at all levels so that they can bring to you those areas that they're seeing that you're not meeting the standard. So when we talk about telling your whole story, what is a way to do that? And one way to do that is you can open up an observation against an entire checklist in MCT rather than a single question. And reasons for doing that would be, say maybe you answer yes to a question, but you're really doing the bare minimum on that question. You're just getting it done. You're not really robustly getting into the program. Another reason would be maybe you found some non-compliance areas within the AFI that don't have a specific question for it. That would be another reason to open up an observation against the entire checklist. And then perhaps you're meeting a requirement, but it's taking you a large amount of manpower and resources to do that. And so opening up an observation against that checklist in MCT, you can really tell that whole story and have it out there.
MICT training video for assessors that are assigned to checklist. And this is going to show you all how you can now create an observation against a checklist that you are assigned to, and you identify an observation that is not associated to a question from the AFI checklist that you are scoring. So let's go ahead and show you exactly how this functionality now exists. So we're going to assume the identity of a user that's assigned to an assessment called the Unit Fitness Program, and it's against AFI 362905. And once again, before we show you this enhancement, if you have an observation, make sure it's associated to the AFI. Don't just make up an observation against an entirely different AFI. It has to be associated to the AFI. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to click on this one here, AFI 362905 Unit Fitness Program. And as you can see here, it's against the particular AFI, and we have 3 existing questions that are against this AFI from the FAM, and we're going to assume that we have identified an additional observation that is not associated to one of the questions, but is still associated to the AFI. So, as you can see here, the existing questions are against the AFI paragraph of 225.1, 2, and 225.5. We have set up a brand new observation that we created, and we put in as just a sample paragraph of 3.4. And as you can see, it allows you to create an observation. So here's how you're going to do it. You're going to click Add SAC Observation. And you're going to get a pop-up message that's going to tell you that, hey, this is going to create an observation that is associated with this SAC of 362905, but it's not associated with any of the existing questions. So that is key. You only click this button if you have an additional observation that is not associated with one of the existing questions from this SAC. So let's go ahead and select OK. Once again, this is optional. When you click OK, it's going to redirect you to the Manage Observations page to allow you to create an observation against the AFI, but it does not have a question associated with it. So your description, we're simply going to type in testing only, but in real world, you would reference most likely the excerpt from the AFI that you're writing the observation against. So you make sure on the reference portion you type in the AFI that's applicable to the checklist title. So as you can see up here, the checklist title is displayed to give you a reference point. You have to hand jam this information in. Your paragraph, make sure it's something different than a question and it's additional, but it's associated to the AFI. You put in the applicable paragraph, your tier number. You have a selection that's going to default to tier 3. We're going to keep it at tier 3. And then you'll notice the bottom portion looks just like the Manage Observations page. So we'll simply type in testing in the observation comments, and then the corrective action plan, we'll simply put training. The observation level, we're going to select minor, and a cause code, we'll just select a training cause code. And as you can see here, we're only going to fill the entries that are mandatory with a red asterisk. We're not going to select an MGA or an estimated completion date. We're going to keep it open, keep the default suspense date of 60 days, and we're simply going to hit save. You're going to notice now that you're going to have a unique observation number that's associated to your observation. A suspense will be created for this observation. And when you click return, you're going to notice that your observation will be populated now at the very bottom of your checklist. The key to this training is make sure if you click Add SAC Observation that it's not associated to an existing question and it's an additional observation against the SAC that you are working with. This concludes training on how to create an observation against a SAC that is not associated to a question.
In that particular video, he's talking about only going in and opening that observation when you don't have a question associated with that checklist. And what we are asking you to do is to go in there so that you can tell your whole story. You're going to document in MCT your observation against the entire checklist, and you're going to reference that particular AFI for that checklist. And the reasons to go in there and to tell your whole story with an observation are you want to highlight your struggles, those areas that you're really struggling in. You also want to talk about areas where you found non-compliance that don't have a question associated with it. So you do want to do that as well. And then also you want to talk about the ones that you have said yes to, but it's taking large amounts of resources, manpower, and dollars to keep that currency for that particular question. We want to highlight that as well. And lastly, to remember, APHIS is not just your MCT and your iGEM system. It is the whole ecosystem of APHIS. It is your SAPMs, your WITs, your self-assessment program, all encompassing. That concludes today's training on how to tell your whole story in MCT, opening that observation against the entire checklist. If you have any questions or comments, please contact the IGI office.
Hello and welcome to Virtual iGEMS training. Today we're going to be covering deficiency management, also known as the deficiency lifecycle. We're going to start by logging into iGEMS and scrolling to the tab that says Deficiencies and Manage Deficiencies. As you can see on the slide, we will click on Manage Deficiencies, and those deficiencies that are assigned to you should show up on the following page. Now, if you are not a deficiency monitor in iGEMS, you may need to talk to your program manager or the IGI to have them reassign a role. In looking at the tabs across the top, you may not have the same view as others. As a deficiency manager, you may see less tabs than you would as we do as admins. In keeping going, we will take a look at the next slide and progress through the process. Alright, we've clicked on Manage Deficiency, and as we see below, the deficiencies assigned to us have come up based on the tracking number. There are a few search boxes that you can use to narrow down your search. One of the things you want to pay attention to is the deficiency level. Make sure that minor is also clicked, and then all of the statuses for open, proposed, accepted, implemented and rejected before filtering for any deficiencies that you're searching for. Some of the things to pay attention to once you've located the tracking number is to scroll across in the blue boxes where it says status. This one obviously is in an open status, which is what we're going to work on next through the next few slides, and how we get that to progress to a proposed, implemented, and closed status. Alright, as we're taking notes and moving through this, the first things we're going to work through are the problem statement, problem breakdown, and the improvement target. So once you've clicked on your tracking number, you'll scroll to the bottom of the page, as you'll see on the next slide, and how we go about setting each one of those in motion. Once we've scrolled to the bottom of the page, you'll see 3 of these boxes here that are grayed out. If you're following along with the directions on the slide, this is where we input the information from the 8-step problem solving method. These boxes will remain grayed out until we click on the edit button. Once we've done that, we can then input the data into each of these boxes. Starting with the problem statement, this is basically a summary or a repeat of the actual deficiency. It's speaking to what is wrong or what non-compliance is being identified. The problem breakdown box is where we get into the details of it. As you can see here, there's some information. 50%, 57% SAC currency rate due to a vacant director position. The third one is where we want to get to, the improvement target. We'd like to maintain a 95% currency goal, and we're going to give a time frame and definition of what that looks like. We'll go to the next slide and we'll cover another piece of this as well. Once we've filled out all 3 of our boxes, if you look down towards the bottom of the page, there are a few more options for RCA tools. RCA stands for root cause analysis. This is how we came up with our improvement target and our countermeasure methods. Selecting one of these will move us to the next step when we hit save. Once we've hit save, we'll go back up on the page in iGEMS and we will move to the next portion of filling out the actual root cause text. You can see here that we've moved back up on the iGEMS page. We're going to look for the little button here highlighted in red that says Add Root Cause. Once we click on that box, as we see in the information 5A, a pop-up window will come up where we can actually list the text that is going to be associated with our root cause. Here the root cause is lack of SAPM due to manning vacancies. Once that's finished and input, go ahead and hit save and we'll move to the next process. Alright, we have saved our root cause as identified in the lack of SAPM now that has popped up in the blue boxes here. Next, we're going to scroll over to the little green button that says Add DC. DC stands for Deficiency Cause Code, and what that will do is break down a categorization within iGEMS to help build trend data. So as you see in the box 5A on this page, you click Add DC, a pop-up window will again show up. We're going to choose from the drop-downs. This happens to be a resource shortfall. It was a personnel shortfall. And then our text down below, the wing SAPM was on long-term orders. Once we've got those things selected and we're ready to move to the next step, hit Save Deficiency Code and we will move to the next piece. You can see that this is cumulative and it is building upon each step before, because now listed in our deficiency cause code is the text and information we just put in. This one happens to be an RS06 insufficient personnel. Once we've completed the DC deficiency cause code, we will add a new CAP CM, which is a corrective action plan or a countermeasure. Again, a pop-up window will show up and we'll put a few pieces of information in as highlighted in 7A. We need an estimated completion date, the OPR, and the status. OPR in this page is important that we identify it as a squadron level or a group level. We don't want an individual name in here because we are assigning this to the squadron as a whole, not necessarily an individual to fix the problem. Countermeasure status will change over time as we get through the process, whether it's in a completed status or long term. Since we're just starting out and we haven't finished this yet, our status will be in progress. Once you've got all those things identified and input into the boxes, go ahead and hit save and we will go to the next step. Alright, again, you'll notice we're building on the pieces that we did before. Now our countermeasure ECD, OPR status, and text has been entered. A second little green box will appear, which is linking the RC. So that way, whatever corrective action plan we're working on, we've also linked it to the root cause of that countermeasure. Once you hit Link RC, a pop-up window will show up, and you select the drop-down to select the correct root cause and assign it to that countermeasure. Once you've picked that, and usually it's just a single RC to a single corrective action plan, go ahead and hit Save Assigned Root Cause, and we'll move to the next step. Here we are on the next step. As we've completed our root cause analysis and we've linked them together, if you scroll up on the iGEMS page, you'll see a small box that pops up that says Proposed Corrective Action Plan. Once you click that, you'll get a little note that pops up here. We'll add in some text. This one here obviously is to the CCO for review and acceptance or feedback on our countermeasures. Once we're satisfied with the information we've put in for the notes, go ahead and hit Save, and this will change the status for that deficiency to Proposed. The CCO office will review the countermeasure and root cause analysis and 8-step piece that we did earlier. If that is all good, she will go ahead and accept it, and it will come back to you for further work. Alright, we've given the CCO some time to review and accept our countermeasures. As you can see here, we've got our ECD, the OPR countermeasure text. Go ahead and hit Edit Countermeasure, which will bring up a pop-up that you will go in and change the status of that countermeasure. It was in progress, now it's been accepted, and we are going to say that it is completed. Once you've changed the status to complete, go ahead and save, and we'll move to the next step. Once we have changed the countermeasure status to complete, if we scroll up on the iGEMS page, we'll start to see the history building from open, proposed, and accepted. Right above that is the Implement Action button. This button, once clicked, is the identifier for the subject matter experts at higher headquarters, the functional area managers, or the IGI for local inspections that this deficiency is indeed ready for closure. Once you've clicked that button, you enter the text in again for a note that says something like, please review and close, or deficiency is ready for closure, countermeasures have all been met, suggest closure of deficiency, and then you hit save. After you hit save, you may see a couple of buttons that show up that says reject or close. Those buttons are not for the deficiency manager, but they are indeed for the functional area manager or the IGI when they're closing it. Implemented status is a little bit confusing because it signifies that the countermeasures are complete and done and that the deficiency has been rectified. It is not the time to start working on the process. So there may be some time between the accepted status that you're working on it and the implemented status for which you are working to complete it. We're going to go ahead and click to the next slide, and we'll cover a couple more points of detail as we finish up our training. As you can see, once we've gone ahead and saved the status as implemented, IGI or the functional area manager will be notified that this is ready for closure. There may be some time between review for these two things, so you want to keep up on the deficiency as a whole, as a program manager or as a deficiency monitor. There is a time clock building against this. It's referred to as the deficiency fix rate. It is not necessarily a hard and fast rule that they must be closed within a certain amount of time, but it is an indicator of what we are doing to complete our deficiency resolution. So we want to keep up on that. If functional manager has taken some time, we can add notes. You can contact the IGI to get a little more involvement and traction with higher headquarters. IGI does work to try and close out implemented statuses on Fridays towards the end of the week, and certainly as we roll into UTA weekends, to try and have these things shored up and cleared up so that your hard work is identified to your commanders. If you've got any more questions or you would like any more virtual training on these things, please check out the other videos IGI has created, and we will talk with you again soon. This has been Senior Master Sergeant Russell on the Deficiency Lifecycle. Thank you.